Hello, can everyone hear me? Oops. I was just turning off the chat. I think I will turn it back on in the math streams. I have them off in these learning streams, but I think I will turn them back on when I start doing math again. Anyways, yeah, I was basically learning Svelte last stream. Uh, and I did the introduction. I did it. I didn't read binding. The last thing I read was events. So I'm just going to dynamic nested reactivity props logic events. I'm just gonna skim read events and then I will start with the bindings. So yeah, we have briefly seen already, you can listen to any DOM event on an element. So pointer.move is a div is an event listener, but you can add like Svelte functions into it. Inline handlers, and then they use the capture keyword. So if I do input, first the key down of input would run, and then on key down of diff would run. So if I put K, if I type D, the input prints it first, and then the diff prints it second. But if you type capture, then the bubbling is reversed. Component events, and then spreading events. Oh yeah, they use the spread operator here. Okay, now bindings. As a general rule, data flow in Svelte is top-down. A parent component can set props on a child component, and a component can set attributes on an element, but not the other way around. Sometimes it's useful to break that rule. Take the case of input element in this component. We could add an on-input event handler that sets the value of name to event target dot value, but it's a bit boilerplatey. It even gets worse with other form elements, as we will see. So we have a name, world, value is world, and then hello world. If we change, uh, shouldn't the state change? Instead, we can use bind value directive. This means that that not only will changes to the value of name update, or this means that not only will the changes of the value of name update the input values, but changes to the input value will update name. Okay, so changes over here is not updating name. Uh, Window dot set timeout console dot log name. Now if I look at the console dot log, it prints world. If I refresh this again, if I refresh, it's still world, so name doesn't change. But we can use bind to change the state itself. Bind value. Now if I refresh, now it changes. Wait, if I refresh, why does it change back? Sorry, I need to switch this off. This is for like in YouTube to control the speed of the video. Okay, now it works. In the DOM, every input value is a string that's unhelpful when you're dealing with numeric inputs. Type number and type range, as it means you have to remember to coerce input.value before using it. So we have range and number type. Or they need to update each other. So we can add bind to both of them. Bind a, bind value a, and then bind. This is much nicer. Checkboxes are also used for toggling between states. Instead of binding to input.value, we bind to input.checked. You must opt in to continue. If you're not paying, you're the product. Okay, so checked. This yes is the state. So bind checked every time I check, then the yes state is going to change. Button does nothing. We can use bind value with select elements. Bind value selected. State, ID, text. Where did you go to school? And ID2, what is your mother's name? And then this text 3. So state. Wait, hold on a minute. Yeah, I'm back now. Okay, is my voice a little different? Can you hear me? Okay, we can also use bind value with select elements. I can't understand this. Hold on. This is like Svelte, but app.html. I'm gonna delete this thing and start a new Svelte, but I will just use this for testing. My VS Code is really slow. So questions, state, selected state, questions, state, ID text, selected state, answer state. I still think I like it better here. Okay, so insecurity questions. This is the H2 element. And the form on submit, handle submit. The handle submit function does e.print default. So the default handle submit does not work. And then it alerts answered question, selected ID to, selected ID text with answer. Form handle submit. P selected question. Waiting. selected question, selected ID and waiting. Okay, so first of all, when we do the first one, so the select and then options. Each question as question. What are the questions? Oh, each question as question. Options value question dot text. Shouldn't it be question dot id be the value? Anyways, value selected. So I would say bind value selected question 1, 2, 3. Each questions as question. Now input bind value answer. Button disabled. So if answer exists, then it will be enabled. Type submit, and the handle submit checks the answer here. Answer question 3. This is the question with this answer. Shouldn't this be, if this was question.id, would that change anything? Selected question. So why doesn't this work? Selected. What is selected? Selected is initially an empty state, but bind.value selected. I think the value comes from here. Yeah, now I remember. If you have multiple type radio or type checkbox inputs relating to the same value, you can use bind group along with the value attribute. Radio inputs in the same group are mutually exclusive. Checkbox in the same group form an array of selected values. Add bind group scopes. Okay, switch off. First, let's see what it's doing. Okay, so we have scopes which have state of 1. We have flavors, which is an empty array, and then formatter. What is this? List format. Style long, type conjunction, size, and then for each 1, 2, 3 as number, we have input. Okay. So for size, for each 1, 2, 3, we have these inputs. We can choose one of them only. So number is 1, then scoop or scoops. Oh, this is for one scoop or two scoops or three scoops. Now flavors, cookies and cream and chocolates. So for this array, we are looping through flavors, value flavor, and then the text of flavor goes here. So input and then the text. Please select at least one flavor. Flavors.length. Okay, so what do we change here? Flavors, number, relating. You can use bind group along with the value attribute. Hold on. So what is group in HTML form? Is there a group attribute? Group attribute in radio input. I'm searching online. Okay, I think I'm not sure about this. The bind group thing is completely from Svelte. I don't think it's in like HTML. Let me just check one more time. Input group attribute. Okay, so we use bind group and scoops. And over here, we use bind group. What do we use? Flavors. I think flavor is wrong. Bind. We have flavors, which is an array. Then bind group flavors. Okay. Can't order more flavors than scoop. 3 scoops. A select element can have a multiple attributes. Attribute, in which case it will populate an array rather than selecting a single element. Replace the checkboxes with a select multiple. What's wrong with the checkboxes? So 1, 2, 3 as number, right? And then we have this array as flavor. And then we are looping through flavor. So they don't want checkbox input, they want select an option. Okay, select select option flavor option select multiple flavor, and now we do bind value flavors. Hold on. To scoop. Can have multiple attribute. Can have a multiple attribute. In which case it will populate an array rather than selecting a single value. Replace the checkboxes with select multiple. Now that we are able to omit the value attribute on the option. Now that we are able to omit the value attribute on the option, since the value is identical to the element's content. Oh, so we press Control for multiple. 3 scoops. And then flavors is an array, right? Text area inputs. The text area element behaves similarly to a text input insult. Use bind value. Text area bind value. In cases like these where the names match, we can also use a shorthand form. Bind value. This applies to all bindings, not just text area binding. So state. Can I press new line? I don't think you can see it on stream, but yeah, I'll do it like this. So input marked from marked. Where is the mark Svelte? Let value. What exactly is marked? Some words are italic. Some words are italic, some words are bold. Oh, they mean like a markdown? So state some words are italic, some words are bold. And then new line list. New line R, new line cool. And then div class grid. Input text area value. Input here is what? Okay, yeah, input and text area value, and then output text area marked. Do they mean marked as in markdown type? If I do this, oh, I need to bind the value. Bind value. Star. Basic Svelte classes and style. Oh, there's a new chapter. Okay. Think it would have been better if they like made more Svelte apps, like these Svelte files. Like any other attribute, you can specify classes with a JavaScript attribute. Here we could add a flipped class to the card. So card, okay, script flipped, state initial state is false. I'm clicking it, it's doing nothing. Flip the card, class card. On click, flipped is not flipped. And then front back pattern, class front, class back. And then these are the styles. Okay, let's forget about the style. So front, back, flipped. And this is what? SVJ. Let's see. Button class. Here we could add a flipped class to the card. So card. Yeah, front, back, card flipped, card, container. This works as a okay, so they're adding another. So it's a card class, and then there is, if flipped is true, then there will also be a flipped class. Otherwise, no class. How does it change like that? Is it the transition? Front, back. Oh, it's this transformed style preserve 3D. Okay, next one. Wait, I didn't read the whole thing. We can make it nicer. Adding or removing a class based on some condition is such a common pattern in UI development. That's what allows you to pass an object or array that is converted to a string by CLSX. This means always add card class and the flipped class whenever flipped is truthy. So what did they do? Card, the card class, and flipped. So if flipped evaluates to true, this variable name turns into a string, right? The variable name flipped turns into a string flipped. That's what I'm guessing. As with class, you can write your inline style attributes literally, because Svelte is really just an HTML with fancy bits. So style transform flipped, rotate by 0. When you have a lot of styles, it can start to look a bit wacky. You can tidy things up using the style directive. Can I copy and paste? Currently disabled for the duration of this. Okay. Flipped rotate by. Okay. Component styles. Often you need to influence the styles inside a child component. Perhaps if you want to make these boxes red, green, and blue. So import boxes, div class boxes, box. And background color is some light gray. One way to do this is with a global CSS modifier, which allows you to indiscriminately target elements inside other components. So style, global, nth child. But there are lots of reasons not to do that. For one thing, it's extremely verbose. For another, it's a brittle. Any changes to the implementation details of box.style could break up the selector. Most of all, though it's root, components should be able to decide for them which style can be controlled from the outside. Inside box.style, change background color so that it's determined by a CSS custom property. So background is variable color. Variable color. Any apparent element can set the value of color, but we can also set it on individual components. So color red. Oh, that's nice. Green. Blue. The values can be dynamic like any other attribute. This feature works by wrapping each component in an element with display contents where needed and applying the custom properties to it. If you inspect the element, you will see the markup like this. Okay, so next chapter we have actions. Wait, hold on. Oh, okay. I know classes was like the class is an object kind of class, not the CSS kind of class. Actions are essentially element level lifecycle functions. They're useful for things like interfacing with third-party libraries, lazy loading images, tooltips, adding custom event handlers. In this app, you can scribble on the canvas and change colors and brush size via the menu. But if you open the menu and cycle through the options with the tab key, you will soon find that the focus isn't trapped inside the model. Cycle through the options with the tab key. Hold on. Okay. I was pressing the tab key. First, we need to add an event listener that interrupts tab key presses. Second, we need to do some cleanup when the node is unmounted, removing the event listener and restoring focus to where it was before the element mounted. So focusable 0 dot focus. Where is the handle key down function? Now when you open the menu, you can cycle through the options with the tab key. But the thing is, okay, so what they're doing, effect, no dot, remove, no. What does the focusable function do? Focusable 0 dot focus. No, it shouldn't be, that's why I was so confused. Shouldn't be mentioned here. Needs to be mentioned here. Focusable is array dot from node query select all. Okay. Effect. And then we add the node listener. Node dot add event listener. Key down. And then handle key down. And then I'll just copy this. But the thing is, what is this previous over here? Previous document dot active element. Oh, the previous element which was on focus, right? So menu. I'm clicking through tab. Oh, now over here it works. Okay, I need a little practice with the previous one. Like transitions and animations, an action can take an argument which the action function will be called. Which the action function will be called with alongside the element it belongs to. Why didn't this update? In this exercise, we want to add a tooltip to the button using the tp.js. The action is already wired up with the use tooltip. So use tooltip, and the tooltip function, what does it do? Tippy node return tooltip.destroy. TP node. So TP node is just this. It's just that little arrow at the bottom. But if you hover over the button, the tooltip contains no content. First, the action needs to accept a function that returns some option to pass to TP. Okay, so some function. And and then we can pass the function in here. So use tooltip. Content. Yeah, why does it need like these normal brackets and then curly brackets? What if it's like this? I don't know why we need the brackets over here. Actions return an object with update. Okay, we aren't using sort for. We are passing in a function rather than the options themselves because the tooltip function does not rerun when the option change. Let's just read it. The actions returned an object with update and destroy methods. This still works, but we recommend using effect instead as it provides more flexibility and granularity. So with effects, any state changes will run the effect right. Effects. Effect is best thought of as an escape hatch rather than something to use frequently. If you can use your side effects in an event handler, for example, that's almost preferable. You've already encountered effects, the ones that Solve creates on your behalf to update the DOM in response to state changes. But you can also create your own with effect one. So effect runs when any state changes, right? TP. Okay. We can also make more appealing user interfaces by gracefully transitioning elements into and out of DOM. Svelte makes this very easy with the transition directive. First, import the fade function from Svelte transition. Okay. They have their own built-in thing. Then add it to the P element. P transition fade. Okay. Transition functions can accept parameters. Replace the fade transition with fly. Import fly with fly over here. And apply it to P along with some options. Y and the duration. Y is 200. Duration is 2000. What if Y is 100? What if Y is minus 100? Yeah, that also works. Now that the transition is reversible, if you toggle the checkbox while the transition is ongoing, it transitions from the current point rather than beginning or the end. Instead of the transition directive, an element can have an in or an out directive or both together. Input fade alongside fly. Then replace the transition directive with separate in and out directives. So we have fade and fly and if visible. Let's do let mode is equal to 0 if visible state true transition fly. So we are getting rid of P, right? So if mod is 0 slash if what is this? How do I why isn't this working? Hold on. How do you do if with the state logic? If count is more than 10. So why doesn't it work with? Maybe we need 3. Transition in and out. Solve it. No. Let mod is state 0. If now if mod 0 slash if why doesn't this work? Props logic. Let's try. Let's see. State, they're checking over here, count is 1. How about this? Wait, oh, it worked here. Wait, I can't use nested if. Key in each block. Hold on. If visible. If visible. And mod 0. Else if. Hold on, how do we do else if? Logic. Else if mod is 1. So colon continues a block. So else if visible and mod is 1, then do uh, out, in, fades in, flies out. Now let's do mod 1, flies out, fades in. Let's do mod 0. Okay, so flies in, fades out. Now I want to check one thing. Would this work if no, this doesn't work. If anyone knows how to do like if inside, that would help. Custom CSS transition. The transitions module has a handful of built-in transitions, but it's very easy to create your own. By way of example, this is the source of the fade transition. The function takes two arguments, the node to which the transition is applied and any parameters that were passed in, and returns a transition object which can have the following properties: delay, duration, easing, CSS tick. The t value is 0 at the beginning of an intro or end of an intro, the 1 value and 1 at the end of the intro or beginning of an outro. Most of the time you should return the CSS property and not the tick property, as CSS animations run off the main thread to provide jank where possible. With great power comes great responsibility. Let's get a little more creative. Let's try to make something gratuitous. So what are they trying to do? Wait, hold on. Let's just solve this one. Okay, why was it so much? Elastic out. So we have spin. Spin was like built in, right? Or did they add it? Spin eased. I think if it gets too complicated, I would just use a normal CSS. Okay. And then how long is the duration? 8 seconds in spin. So E is elastic out. T. And the color changes over here. While you should generally use CSS for transitions as much as possible, there are some effects that can't be achieved without JavaScript, such as typewriter effect. Or they want it to be visible by like character by character. So typewriter, this is the thing. Checkbox transition typewriter. What is this return for? The function takes two arguments and returns a transition object which can have the following properties. So CSS. Okay. Duration and tick. Duration and a tick. A TU function that has some effect on the node. A function where t is 1 minus a TU CSS function where u is 1 minus t. So what we are returning is CSS. So when do we use tick? Okay. So return duration and tick. Well, the duration is the speed is 1. I don't think we have to pass. Where would the duration come from? Oh, so duration is the text dot length divided by speed. Okay. The text is not dot text content. So const text is not dot text content, and then const duration text dot length, and then we are spending speed is 1, right? The duration here could be different than the speed being mentioned here. Duration. Why tick here? Typewriter effect. Tick and T. I'll just copy this. Let's see. Times it by 0.01. So why are they using tick here and CSS on the previous one? the t value is 0 at the beginning of an outro or at the end of at the beginning of the intro and or at the end of an outro. So when do we use stick and when do we use yes? This is something I have to search off stream. It can be useful to know when transitions are beginning and ending, so it dispatches events that you can listen to like any other DOM event. Let's solve this. Transition fly on intro start. Status. Oh, status waiting, outro started. So on these, so it dispatches events that you can, okay, these are Svelte events we can use during transition. Intro started, intro ended, outro started, outro ended. Global transition. Transitions will only play on elements when their direct containing block is added or destroyed. The example here, toggling the visibility of the entire list does not apply transitions to individual list elements. Instead, we would like transitions to not only play when individual items are added or removed with the slider, but also when we toggle the checkbox. Okay. We can achieve this with a global transition which plays when any block containing the transition is added or removed. Transition slide. But they are sliding, no? What are they achieving with the global? Global. And if I remove global, isn't it the same thing? I would like to transition to not only play when individual items are added or removed with the slider, but also when we toggle the checkbox. Transition slide. Global. Key blocks destroy and recreate their contents when the value of an expression changes. This is useful if you want an element to play its transition whenever a value changes, instead of only when the element enters or leaves the DOM. Here, for example, we would like to play typewriter transition from transition.js from here. Whenever the loading message I changes, wrap the P element inside a key block. So P key I and then key. So whenever the key block changes, whenever I changes, then I is the state is +1. Then I'm guessing the transition runs, otherwise without this, there's no transition. Okay. I think I will end my stream here. I think I will learn all of this. I still haven't decided whether I should learn all of this on stream or like off stream. But I want to learn circuit in the future. So circuit, I think I will definitely do on stream. I'm not sure, so don't take my word for granted. So I want to do on stream, but I don't know if I would. Advanced Svelte, I have to think about it. Okay, anyways, I will end the stream here. And yeah, I will see you guys next time. Bye.